speech is going to cover the switch from GAAP to the IFRS, which is the International Financial Reporting Standards. It also shows some similarities, differences, advantages, disadvantages to the switch. On August 27, 2008, the SEC, Security Exchange Commission, developed a roadmap to serve as a guideline for the switch. David Albrecht stated, "The International Standards of Financial Reporting is the way that a majority of other countries do their accounting. The goal of the IFRS is to have one set of standards internationally." Tom Tyson, a writer of a CPA journal, stated that as April 2011, the accounting profession is still waiting on the SEC's decision to switch or not. The IFRS and GAAP have many similarities and differences. The financial statements are very similar in IFRS and GAAP accounting. The first similarity is statements. Both standards require balance sheets, income statements, in a form of non-operating income and expense statements. The second one is basis of accounting. Both standards use an accrual basis of accounting. The third similarity is policies of accounting. Both standards require companies to continue to use the same policies that they used the year before, unless they state otherwise in their statements. The fourth similarity is inventory. Both sets of standards use cost accounting for inventory. The fifth similarity is long-lived assets. Long-lived assets are similar in that both standards accounts are expected to present the information so that users of the financial statements can determine the worth of the assets. The sixth similarity is extraordinary items. When listing extraordinary items on the income statement, both standards have a designated section for such items. The seventh similarity is tangible assets. Both standards list tangible assets as property, plant, and equipment. Although there are many similarities, there are also many differences. The first one is amount of detail. GAAP is a very detailed set of accounting standards and makes figures easier to audit and to trace. The IFRS, however, is a very summarized set of accounting standards, which makes it hard to trace or audit. The second difference is different versions. With a change to the IFRS, there will be more simplified versions and complex versions, compared to GAAP, where most companies use similar versions. The third difference is recognition of assets. IFRS only recognizes assets with a future economic benefit. GAAP recognizes all intangible assets as fair value. Inventory. IFRS does not allow LIFO, which is last in, first out, but GAAP allows either LIFO, last in, first out, or FIFO, first in, first out, for keeping inventory costs. The next difference is asset depreciation. IFRS does not require companies to depreciate assets, but IFRS does require depreciation of assets, but GAAP does not. The last difference I have is taxes. GAAP has a set amount for taxes for most assets and liabilities. IFRS taxes are usually the amount deductible or taxable for assets or liabilities. Although it may be a timely and costly thing, switching from GAAP to IFRS has some great advantages. The first one is comparability. If companies switch, they will be able to compare and contrast their financial statements to others globally. This could help the capital worth increase because international investors will more likely be able to invest properly than they would have before because they will have great figures to judge which one's best. It'll also help with trade because they will be more inclined to be more compatible with other companies. The second advantage is cost savings. This is mainly for multinational companies. After all the time and employees it takes to change financial reports to be the same as multinational companies, it would be cheaper to switch to the standards right now than to wait and just do it as it comes along. Although small companies may struggle through the change due to the expensive costs, in the long run it will save time and money. There are also disadvantages too. The first one is the United States enforcement. With GAAP, the United States has a great set of standards and superior enforcement. With IFRS, the United States will no longer have that great enforcement. The second disadvantage is United States authority. The United States' power over accounting would no longer be. Rather, the power would be in the IASB's hands instead of FASB or at the SEC. The FASB and the SEC would disappear due to lack of authority. To conclude, my speech included a brief overview of the IFRS, some similarities, differences, and advantages and disadvantages to the switch from GAAP to IFRS. I personally believe that it would be a great idea to switch in the long run because eventually the entire world will be using IFRS. Switching now would make it easier for up-and-coming companies to compete on the multinational level.